Hello and welcome, guys. Today we are going to start the first lecture of this section, which is on the non-generic classes. So I have with you the learning outcome that you will learn out of this class today. And the first one is to demonstrate that arrays are fixed in size and can't resize dynamically. Compare this with an array list which can be resized dynamically at runtime, and to display the array and array list collection on the console. Now, with my past experience from teaching face-to-face at universities and polytechs in New Zealand, I always found it is a good idea to actually have a lesson plan which will give you step-by-step idea of what I am going to plan for the class. So please read this plan, which are quite a few steps, but we will go through it practically. So flipping over to Visual Studio, so I have created a solution collection classes project and I have already included the non-generic class demo. It's a C# console application. So you can make it as a .NET framework C# console, or as well as you can make it as a ASP.NET Core framework console application. Both are the same, actually, both work the same way. Practically ASP.NET Core will be the thing of the future. So Microsoft will now be henceforth putting all its emphasis in developing ASP.NET Core, but from the point of view of this application, they are both the same. So what I am going to do is, in this application I have got a employee class which looks like this. It has got a few auto implemented properties: ID, name, department and salary. And then going back to the program, so I will create a few instances of the employee type as I put in my lesson plan. So let's see, employee emp1 equals new employee, and in this case I can instantiate the new employee object like this. If you type just A or anything, you'll get all the properties of this employee class on the IntelliSense. So I'll start with ID. So ID will be, say, 1, and then department name and salary. So let's take name as the second. You can take anything. You can start with department or salary, or any way you can massage those properties. It doesn't matter. So class will still be instantiated. So let me take the name as Steve. Then if I forget, I can always put an A. Department is, say, IT, and then let's say salary is 4,500. Okay, so that's one object created. It is a int, so it has to be a number without the double quotes. Right. So where possible, I will introduce an intentional or even unintentional errors just to project the fact that software development is not always happy programming. You will come up with lots of build errors or compile time errors which you have to sort out if you are going to be a successful software developer. So all the best. Now I will copy this object just for the sake of brevity in typing. So let's create 4 objects and rename them as M2, M3, M4, and change the properties as ID2, ID3, ID4. Let the name be, it could be anything, say Glenn, with the department HR, salary of, say, 5,500, and say the name is Bill. Of course, you could choose any name. Say sales, salary is, let's say, 7,500. Looks good. He's getting a lot of salary in the sales department. All right, and the last one, let's say Sally, department is operations, short form OPS, and salary say 6,500, right, or 6,000, round figure. Now let me create an array. Create an array of employee. All right, so employee array notation. Now it is giving me some ideas. Employees, that's good actually. Employees, new employee, let's size it at 3, so it could accommodate 3 elements in its collection. And let's say employees, how do you assign the various elements of this array? With index, you know, employee 0 equals emp1, and let's copy this. Right, so because it takes 3 employees, so let's give it 3 employee objects. Okay, now let's run the application to see that it runs. Let me see. My startup object has to be program.cs. So let's say properties. No, here it is, ArrayList.collection. But I have to make this program.cs as the startup object. So let's run it. Now press any key to continue. So it's running successfully. Let's now add another employee. So employees, that will be outside the size. Employees 3 equals, correctly guessed, employee 4. Now let's build this. Control Shift B to build. So build succeeded, but let's run the application and see what happens. All right, so you get an unhandled exception, system out of index out of range exception. Index was outside the bounds of the array. So you can see the size is built at the design time, and it cannot be resized. So I have tried to put another element, so it doesn't accommodate, it doesn't like it. So arrays cannot grow in size. That's what my first lesson plan objective was. If you look at this, to demonstrate that arrays are fixed in size and can't resize dynamically. Now I will compare it with an array list, which can be resized dynamically at runtime. So going back to the code, here I will put a console.writeLine statement just to separate it out from the rest of the section. So it's a console.writeLine. Right now, first, before I show you the array list, let's let's get that all the items of this employees array on the console. So for that, I have got a for each loop, which I have, for the sake of saving time, copied on my clipboard, and that is a for each loop for each var item in employees. So employees is the array. Console.writeLine, array elements are id equals item.id, this item, name equals item.name, department item.department, and salary equals item.salary. Now this is a new notation started with C#6. This is known as string interpolation, as opposed to an earlier way to write it, which was which you had to type more words, which was a bit lengthier, but that was also valid still. So I thought of telling you this string interpolation method, and let's see what happens. Control F5. Unhandled exception. Okay, so it doesn't like. What I need to do is I'll just comment it out and then run the application once again, and it should run. Right, so here you are. Array elements are id, name, department, and similarly id equals 2, id is equal to 3, and all the records are printed. Right, so now is the turn of ArrayList. What is an ArrayList? ArrayList is a non-generic collection, if you have seen my earlier lecture. So ArrayList uses this system.collections namespace. So ArrayList can grow in size. If you recall my last lecture, please go through it. If you are not, if you have forgotten a little bit, it doesn't matter. I keep on forgetting. So ArrayList is a non-generic collection, and it can grow and shrink in size, and it has got many other advantages which the arrays are not, like it is you can access any element from anywhere within the ArrayList collection with the relevant methods, which we'll see in the next lecture, and you can insert and remove elements from the ArrayList. All right, so ArrayList, this is IntelliSense. ArrayList, say, now it is also prompting me. You can choose, or choose to ignore. So what is auto suggested? New ArrayList. Now here this ArrayList has got a few methods, and the most commonly used method is add method. So it will allow me to add an object. So ArrayList is derived from object, so I can put an object, which is in this case emp1, and then again ArrayList dot add emp2, and let's restrict the ArrayList size to initially 2, and then let me add a couple of more employees. So emp3 and emp4, and let's get another console.writeLine statement, which I have copied on my clipboard, just to separate out, put it nicely. And finally a for each. Let me run the application first. So first let's Control F5, a hotkey combination to run without debugging. Right, so nothing happened because array elements are still being shown. ArrayList is yet to be shown, which will be next. Now here let's write this for each. For each, if you tab, it will create the stub of the for each loop for each var item. So var is the present day fashion, you can say, of non explicitly writing the type, which will be determined at the compile time. The the variable type, data type. So var item, I'm happy with the item, but in this has to be a different collection. This has to be array list. Okay, so array list var, for each var item in array list, let's see the console.writeLine statement. Let me write it this time, console.writeLine. Now, as I have made you aware in our last lecture that array list derives from object class. So here you need to unbox the item or cast the item to an employee object. If you don't do it, you will not get the correct object in the display. So let me just demonstrate to you what I'm saying. If you just keep if you are happy with what you have written in the array, here if I want to do, you can see item.id object does not contain a definition for id and no accessible extension method id excepting the first argument. Object could not, first argument of type object could be found. Are you missing a using directive? So what I am missing here is I need to typecast this item to an employee object. So to be able to do that, I need to write employee, and here this employee like this, right? Now it's happy. If you write like this, this is the starting bracket, this has to be, there is another bracket over here, and then if you cast it to an employee object, then it will expose all the properties, id, name, salary, etc. Okay, so item dot id, I'll just copy this part, highlight, copy. So item, now this time it will be name, okay, and then department, again paste it over here, dot department, automatically squiggly line gone, and then salary, employee item dot salary. That's fine. So if everything is okay, that it should run. Control F5. All right, so it is running. So array elements are id, name, department. I've already, an important concept I've already proved here, and that is that the array list can grow in size dynamically. Look here, the array list started with a size of 2, but I have been able to add 2 more elements, so total 4 elements, and it is still built correctly. Lastly, we'll show you how to show the each items in the array list, for which I have copied the code. Let me just paste it just to save time. So it looks like this. Here, this item is of a type object, so it has to be cast or unboxed to a proper employee class to get the all the properties like id, name. So if you just get rid of this dot notation and then put a dot here, you can see that id, name, salary, and department are all exposed, these properties. So if you run this application now, all these array list items are properly displayed, id, name, department, and salary. That's it for today. Thank you.